What's up guys, iDusk here and welcome to yet another Gears of War 4 tips and tricks video. Today I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks about sensitivity and controller layout settings. This one's obviously going to be aimed towards the newer players who might not know what these settings are. A lot of the newer players, especially those who are new to shooters in general, tend to just play on all default settings and never really tinker with the game settings. But there is a lot that you can adjust that will greatly improve your experience. So I'm going to start by going over all the different settings. I'll go into a bit of detail for the relevant ones, and then I'll just skim over the ones that don't really matter as much. So here you can see we're in the game's controller options menu, and the first thing we see are the three sensitivity settings: look, target, and zoom sensitivity. I believe the game defaults these to 10 or 15, and I'm not too sure, but these three are probably the most important settings on this list. For those who are brand new to shooters, sensitivity means that that's how fast your character is going to move or look around when you move the right thumbstick. The higher the sensitivity, the faster you're going to be looking around, as I'll be demonstrating in the video. Your look sensitivity is how fast you look around when you aren't aiming. Aim sensitivity is when you are aiming down the sights, and zoom is when you are scoped in on a weapon like the sniper or the snub pistol. As you just saw, I personally play on 28, 28, 25. Sometimes I tone it down to 25 across the board, but so far this has been working out for me. However, there is no right or wrong sensitivity settings. Many people are under the impression that you have to play on the highest possible sensitivity in order to be good, but that's simply not true. There are pro players who play on the lower sensitivities, and there are pro players who play on the higher ones. Your sensitivities ultimately come down to preference and playstyle. If you consider yourself an aggressive, Nasters out, take every 1v1, every 5v1 you see type of player, then you're probably going to feel more comfortable on the higher sensitivities, since you're primarily going to be fighting in close quarters and you want to be able to quickly whip around your gun while wall bouncing. If you're more of the supportive player like myself, then you might find a lower sensitivity is better for you, since you primarily be playing from mid to long ranges and you want a slower and steadier shot. But these are just general rules of thumb. It ultimately just comes down to what's comfortable for you. I would only suggest that you stay away from the lowest settings, because when you're on the lowest possible settings, you're going to have a really hard time tracking enemies as you shoot them. Next we have aim acceleration, which adjusts how fast you accelerate while turning. If you didn't realize, when you start to aim and turn your character, it doesn't go full speed right away. They move a little bit slower at first, and then they progressively get faster as you hold the thumbstick down in one direction. I'm assuming the reason why it's like this is so you don't whip your gun super fast when you're trying to make small adjustments to your aim. It's a very common thing in most console shooters, but you can toy around with this setting in Gears of War 4, and I personally, I just leave it at 10, but feel free to tinker with it and see if you find a setting that you prefer. Next, we have the inner and outer dead zones, which a lot of players don't even understand what these even do. Dead zone is referring to when you move your thumbstick slightly, but nothing is registered on the game. Dead zones vary by controller, but I like to adjust these settings so that the slightest bit of pressure will register some movement. That way you can aim more precisely. But you don't want to set it so sensitive that your controller starts ghosting, which means that your character will start aiming around without you touching the thumbsticks. These next few aren't so important, so I'm going to quickly skim through them. Vibration, I keep off. The reason why is because I feel vibrations can make it harder for you to keep a steady shot, especially when you adjust the dead zone so that the smallest bit of pressure will register some movement. It doesn't make a huge difference, and if the immersion is more important than you, then keeping vibration on isn't going to make that big of an impact on your gameplay. The invert Y and X axis, or axis, I don't know how to pronounce that actually. That just means that exactly what it says. You can make pulling down on the thumbstick make you look up, and you can make left look right, up is down, you know, you get it from here. These make zero impact on your performance. It is all just preference. I think the old school games, like way back in the day, I think sometimes used to default to these, so some people are just used to it. The toggle primary weapon button means that you can switch your two primary weapons by pressing one direction on the D-pad. Again, this doesn't make too much of a difference. I mean, you might save like 0.0001 second by not having to move your thumbs to the left side of the D-pad, but that's hardly going to make a difference. I will say that if you have an Elite controller, you can reassign one of the D-pad buttons to another button, and then you can switch your Lancer for your Nastr with just the press of a button, which is pretty cool, but I don't think it makes that huge of a difference. And finally, omnidirectional rolling means that rather than just being able to roll up, down, left, right, you'll be able to roll diagonally in any direction. I keep it on. I think the game defaults it to on, and I don't think it'll kill you to have it off, but I also don't see what benefit there is to having it off. Finally, we have the controller layout settings. Controller layout is again mainly preference. There are no right or wrong layouts to play on, but there are many options that you might find work out better for your playstyle. So first we have default, which if you're new, that's probably what you've been playing on. Next we have classic alternate, which splits the taking cover action and the roll and run actions, and it separates those into two different buttons, A and X. Now this is the setting that I play on, and I played on them since they were introduced in Gears of War 2. The reason why I like this setting is when you play on default, a lot of times what will happen is you'll be trying to take cover, and instead you'll end up rolling into a wall, which can get you killed. It's especially frustrating when wall balancing, so playing on alternate prevents this from happening. Then you have tournament, which is a new feature that swaps the A and the LB button. Or if you prefer the alternate settings, there's also tournament alt, which does the same thing, but it keeps the rolling and taking cover still on separate buttons. The benefit to either tournament layout is that you'll do all your wall bouncing with the left bumper instead of the A button, which keeps your right thumb on the thumbstick so you can more quickly aim while wall bouncing, as opposed to having to take your thumb off the stick, press the A button, and then move your thumb back to the thumbstick to aim again. I personally still play on classic alternate. I've just gotten used to it over the years and I don't really want to change that. But arguably, tournament settings does make wall bouncing easier, so it might be, if you're looking to be like a super good wall bouncing 1v1 player, you should at least give it a test out. But still, I think it just comes down to preference. So don't get too caught up in what you should be using and just toy around with all the settings until you find out what works for you. So I'll wrap this video up with a few more general tips for those who are just struggling to find what setting works for them. First, don't get into the habit of changing your sensitivity after every match or after every death. You need to give your body and your brain some time to learn the new muscle memory that comes with adjusting your sensitivity and settings. You don't just go from a 10 sensitivity up to a 30 and then instantly adapt to it. It takes some time. I say play at least a few matches before deciding if a sensitivity is too high or too low. Or if you want, you can throw up a private lobby, fill it with bots, and just run around and shoot them with different sensitivities. And I would give yourself about 15 minutes on each sensitivity to determine if that's the one that works for you or not. Controller layouts are even more difficult to adjust to. Now this may sound like a long time, but you really should give yourself about a week if you're trying a whole new controller layout. Back when I first switched to alternate settings, I would only play a few games, end up sucking because I'm not used to playing on alternate, and then I would just go back to default settings. And then a couple games later, when I got really mad because I rolled into a wall, I would switch again for 1 or 2 games, and so on, keep that cycle going over and over again. I kept switching because I never really gave myself time to adjust to the alternate settings, but one day I decided, you know what, I'm switching, that's the end of it, I want to play on alternate. So I played through the whole campaign on alternate settings, and after a few days, I was fully adjusted to it, and I have not switched back since. So make sure that if you're going to try out a new controller layout or sensitivity or any of these new things, give yourself some time to really adjust to it before saying, oh, this isn't for me, and then dropping it. Finally, my last tip is to try everything at least once. It's easy to find a setting that works and just be content with it, but if you don't try playing on different settings and sensitivities, you might be missing out on something that can help you improve. So just make sure to try everything out. You might find something better than what you're currently using. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any tips that I did not cover, feel free to share those in the comments below, as well as suggest ideas for future tips and tricks videos. I think the next episode I'm going to be doing the support player video, but let me know what you guys want to see. This series is all about helping you guys get better at Gears of War, so I need your input to make this series work, especially if you're a newer player who is just getting into the game for the first time. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like and subscribe to the channel for some more Gears of War content. That helps my channel grow a lot, and I really do appreciate that. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter as well. I'll have a link in the description. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. You guys are all awesome, and I love you all, and I will see you next time.